So good. All the cool kids have the cool podcast studio set up with the wood in the background.
Do you know what? I'm going to tell you a secret. This is actually just the walk-in closet of my bedroom. So don't be too impressed.
So it just was like that?
No, actually, we had some extra flooring left over from doing the basement. So this is like vinyl plank.
Yes.
that we threw up on the wall. Cleared all the stuff out of the closet. And yeah,
don't
need a little spot in the house.
People are like, how do you do a podcast? Well, first, you take that extra flooring you have that looks like shit somewhere and you put it on your wall. And people are like, damn, you're good.
You look professional. So my husband and I have a podcast for our gym. We call it Brio in the Box, but sometimes we call it Brio in the Closet podcast.
Brio, people, BRIO. Don't be like me and spend the 10 minutes looking on the internet for CrossFit Rio. I heard it mentioned, like I heard it said CrossFit Rio, because I guess either I wasn't listening or people say it fast or whatever. And finally, I'm like, this is bullshit. I can't find CrossFit Rio in Canada. And,
there should be a CrossFit Rio, but it's probably not in Canada.
No. Right. And where you're in Saskatchewan?
Hey, pretty good. Yeah. Saskatoon is the city. Saskatchewan is the province.
Saskatoon.
Middle of nowhere, wild west of Canada.
Sounds like a bad word, Saskatoon. Sounds like something one of like Bugs Bunny would say.
Yeah. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You are truly a remarkable human being. I want to tell you, I've been around for a long time. I don't know if I've been around as long as you, but I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of people give the level 1. I've seen a lot of people talk about nutrition. I've seen a lot of people train. I watched so much content you did, and then I fell down rabbit holes of watching content you've done. I watched that training video where you trained Chuck and Zach Pine and Eric O'Connor with feedback from Nicole Christensen. You are a powerhouse. What a gift to the community you are. You are truly an impressive creature. I watched a symposium you gave. I watched a podcast you did with 2 doctors where you defined all these terms and talked about nutrition, and I saw their brains kind of exploding. And it made me, I was actually really nervous for you because there's so much controversy since the roots. I mean, just around food in general, people are really passionate about it. Passionate's not the right word. People are really defensive about it. Better. Yeah. And not open to it and to anything except what they know. It's really dogmatic. And then on top of that, there was so much controversy in the CrossFit space. We all know that nutrition is the pyramid. The base of the pyramid. We all know that Greg Glassman said that, hey, as the fitness guy, I don't want to tell you this, but if you get your nutrition, if I had to pick one, nutrition or fitness, I would pick nutrition. And there hasn't been anyone since Rob Wolf who has dared or been anointed to be the CrossFit nutrition guru. And I did speak with Dave just briefly about you, and he's so excited about you. I mean, he has such crazy faith in you and belief in you. So, and you're a 16-year affiliate owner?
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Savon, you're saying so many nice things about me. I'm not sure my head is going to get too big for this closet.
I'm trying not to say nice things. I'm just trying to be objective. It was crazy. Your mastery over this subject matter, and you're still conscious in your presentation. I really noticed it when you talked about you were explaining to doctors about what is it? Force times distance divided by time. And I've heard 1,000 people, I feel like, say that, or that 100 people say that line 1,000 times, and it's never stuck until you said it. I'm like, yeah, she knows her audience is hearing this for the first time, and that they're not, and that you're not just rushing through it and just like, you're great, man. It's like listening to Greg, to be honest.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
that's a high compliment. I'm not sure where to park that in my.
It really is. It really is like listening to Greg, and you're passionate about it, and your belief in it. You're not regurgitating it. You've owned the information. But then when I saw you teaching, Eric O'Connor probably done more level 1s than anyone on planet Earth, maybe more than any 2 people. Then you got Chuck Carswell, one of the most charismatic characters in the CrossFit space, and then Zach Pine, who been everywhere and knows everything, and then Nicole Christensen trying to critique you, and I was like, and you didn't flinch. You're a beast. Was that nerve-wracking teaching them that?
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. We did that stuff down at the ranch in December.
Yeah,
and
with Dave there.
With Dave, yeah.
too. Yeah, they had a, yeah.
And got a message kind of out of the blue being like, hey, do you want to come down to the ranch and film some media with us? And I was like, of course, absolutely. I've talked at length on other podcasts about imposter syndrome, being like, what in the world am I doing here with these people? Like you said, these are like the heavy hitters of the CrossFit world, people I've learned from and looked up to for, the better part of a decade and a half. And now I'm getting invited to come and hang out with them and work with them and take feedback from them and teach them and do all these things. And I kind of learned about myself in the last little while that, some people like to drive race cars and jump out of airplanes, like thrill seeking behavior. It was like, I think I actually love imposter syndrome, where it has this reckless danger to it. Be like, I don't think I belong here at all. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to show up and see if I can pull it off. And I kind of love that feeling of it. So super excited and grateful to have had several of these really amazing opportunities thrown my way in the last little while, and get to know and get to hang out with and get to learn from and work with all these amazing humans. CrossFit's just full of the best people.
Let me ask this. What don't you feel? This is kind of a subject that I really like. What don't you feel an imposter about? Because there's only one thing in life that I don't feel like I'm an imposter when I do. And I wonder if it's the same for you.
The one thing I don't feel like an imposter about?
Yeah, or what's something you don't feel like an imposter? You're like, wow, that's really like you've really like, to me, all identities are bullshit and fake. To me, like so even if you don't believe me, let's take my presupposition that we're just really nothing. We're just like those characters at Chuck E. Cheese behind the door. But if there's one thing that you're confused and you're like, wow, I really do think I'm that. I've actually fallen into the into like I really have believed this role. I believe my own lie about this role. Is there one?
I think I'm really good at taking a lot of information and holding it in my brain and then communicating it in a way that hopefully makes sense to other people. I think if that's my superpower.
Yeah. You're
teaching.
Most confident there.
Yeah. I think you could summarize that as teaching.
For me, it's being a dad.
Yeah.
When my wife had kicked out the kids, like within 2 seconds, I was like, holy shit. Even after I'd made 10 movies, I never felt like I was a director. I would never tell anyone I directed 10 movies. But like, I really do feel like even right now talking to you, like I'm a dad, like I got 3 kids in the house.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. You feel like a mom?
I do. I don't know that I would say I don't struggle with like, I don't know what I'm doing most of the day. I'm trying my best out here. And, you just think, well, if I love them and I'm trying to take care of them to the best of my abilities, surely that's got to get them to a good place. My boys are 14 and 8.
Oh my goodness. You have a 14-year-old boy.
I do. He'll be almost 15. So it's a new adventure. I mean, it's a new adventure every year. No 2 years are the same.
Yeah.
Just when you feel like you've got one thing figured out, it's a new stage and new things are popping up. So it's a never ending set of challenges. And then you get the first one figured out and then you have another one and that's a completely different human. And so it's one of the most interesting challenges, journeys of life, I think, to try to parent a human into a functional adult.
And were both your kids planned?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Are you pretty planned like that? You pretty organized person?
No, no one would describe me as an organized person, especially not my husband. The poor guy just manages the chaos in the background all the time.
There has to be one person who's doing that. My wife does that too. Zach, 2-year-old and 6-month-old. We just found out wife is pregnant. Congrats, dude.
Yeah.
You have a 6-month-old and she's pregnant alone. Jesus, get off your wife. Crying out loud.
My kids are 6 years apart, so we had like a nice civilized age gap on the two of them.
You have a before I ask you the hard question, why are there so many fat people on the planet? You are now launching what I can't remember the last time there was a nutrition seminar. This is the first of many to come. Can you tell me about that? The most superficial stuff, when and where it is, and is there room available? And then we'll dig down into what it is.
Yeah, for sure. So CrossFit's launching a series of 1-day in-person specialty courses, weightlifting, gymnastics, and nutrition. And they put me in charge of the 1-day nutrition course. So the first run of it is June 7th in Toronto at CrossFit Coliseum. So we're going to spend a whole day together. The actual title of the course is CrossFit Nutrition for the Everyday Athlete. So it's not a course geared towards coaches who are coaching other people in nutrition. It's the end users. It's the individuals of like, how do we navigate this seemingly complex question of what to eat? How do we decide what to eat? How do we feed ourselves? So we're going to spend a whole day together digging through what are we even aiming at? What are our goals when we're talking about addressing our nutrition? What is health? What do we need to know? The basics about nutrition, Nutrition 101. How do we navigate the food system these days to even decide what is food and what isn't? And then the practical application of like putting it together. How do we build meals? Some quantification tools, things like that. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's a basically like dream opportunity for me to be in charge of, nutrition curriculum development for CrossFit. And like I said, first runs in Toronto, and then we're planning to take the course all over the place. So
just to add some pressure to your plate, it really makes you the boss of CrossFit, because you can say whatever you want about what people do or say, but it is the foundation. And telling people or talking to people what they use their hand for to bring that thing and stuff it in that hole in the front is like, that's everything.
And I think like you've been around CrossFit since the very beginning and closer to the core of it than anybody. I remember those early days, even though I was on the periphery of it. I always feel like I'm on this little island out here in the middle of nowhere in Canada, but read every CrossFit Journal article, watched every video of Greg and every other subject matter expert. And in the early days, the nutrition was just as much a part of the culture of how we talked as was the performance. It was what's your Fran time and how many blocks are you on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm on.
I forgot about that. You're right. It was a lot of block talk.
Yeah. And, paleo was a big thing. So it was what are you eating and how much are you eating and what's your Fran time was like the way that we talk to each other. And then somewhere along the way, and I'm not really sure where, the bigger, broader community lost that focus on nutrition as the base of the pyramid. And maybe, I mean, it's hard to put a finger on why or how that happened exactly, that we, as CrossFit, stopped talking about it so aggressively. And then therefore other nutrition paradigms kind of filled that space. We got very distracted with performance above all else, as in the CrossFit Games, which is, I love the CrossFit Games. I've been watching it, since the very beginning. I've been working at the Games, giving up a good chunk of my summer the last few years to be a part of the Games team. But I think almost anybody that's been doing CrossFit a long time in the affiliate, working with individuals, understands that that's not the center of the CrossFit universe. It's a cool thing, but it's not what's happening day to day in the affiliate. And so I felt like for a long time, CrossFit needs to talk more about nutrition again. And then all of a sudden one day you like look left and you look right and you're like, oh, no one's coming to save us. That's me now. I was like, I love talking about nutrition. I was like, I guess that's my job now. Like, I'll do it. That's fine. I love nutrition. And it went from kind of a hobby, side interest, passion of mine in terms of cooking and blogging about nutrition and recipes and quantification and that sort of stuff. And with some encouragement of people around me, they were like, you should clearly do something with this. So in 2021, I went back to school and got a master's of science in human nutrition to actually beef up my knowledge on the biochemistry and the science as the base of it. Finished that last year. And then now, like I said, if my superpower is anything, it's teaching. So I'm like, all right, I went and accumulated a lot of knowledge. And now the job is to get it into the hands of the community to actually put it into practice.
You got a master's degree in human nutrition. And that studies the biochemistry. What does that mean, the biochemistry?
Well, it's just the actual details of how does metabolism, how does the body take the food that you eat and turn it into every cell in your body, every muscle, bone, neurotransmitter, and then also the energetic inputs. How do we take food and turn it into energy that keeps us alive and allows us to do all these things? My original education way back in the day, pre-CrossFit, I have an undergrad and a master's degree in finance and marketing management. And when I finished my MBA, we did a little residence project at the head office of McDonald's outside Chicago. And a lot of that, marketing and finance is like how to sell things and make money, essentially. And you spend a ton of time learning about food marketing because those are some of the most common purchase decisions that consumers make, like day to day.
Every day. That's the one we have to do. Yep.
Yeah. And so there's a ton of marketing and psychology that goes into that. There's a ton of attention paid to even tiny, like 1 cent profit margin kind of thing. So I always kind of tell people like, guys, I was on the other side. I saw all about the language used to control consumer purchase decisions and the child psychologists hired to create brand loyalty to certain food brands and restaurants and locations as early as possible and all this, kind of stuff. And it always gave me the creeps, to put it bluntly, gave me the creeps. I worked as a financial analyst and in a fit of probably stupidity, decided to quit my job and become a personal trainer. And it was around that same time that I found CrossFit and got myself to my level 1. And my husband used to run a restaurant. And we both at the same time were like, let's quit our jobs and become trainers. And I'm sure the people around us were like, you big dumb idiots, what are you doing?
You're so smart. Why would you do that?
Both quit our careers. And never really looked back. We started off with a little personal training studio, and then it morphed into we affiliated it, and then it morphed into a group training setup. And then it became, the CrossFit gym that it is now, almost 17 years later. But I always had this strong passion for cooking and for food, even like all the way back to high school. There was a time where I thought I would go to chef school, and I ended up going to business school. But I always really liked food. And then you get into CrossFit, and those early days, I started in 2008. Like I said, you had the zone block charts taped to your cupboards, and it was just the way we talked. And paleo was such a big thing that was all about the quality of what you were eating. And that stayed with me the whole time. That was just how I got indoctrinated into fitness and CrossFit specifically. And we never really let it go. We always talked about food and nutrition and everything. And that process of experimenting, right? We talk at the level 1 about N of 1, just try stuff, measure the results, measure the inputs, measure the results, and adjust as needed until you achieve the outputs that you're looking for. So I've tried all kinds of stuff over the years. I love a good experiment. And then I just started sharing the information, putting it on websites at first, and then social media became a thing, and Instagram, and what, like I said, was a hobby interest of me just tinkering with things and sharing the information turned into, eventually going back to school, and then eventually being in charge of teaching nutrition to other people. So.
And those are what you just expressed are the kind of things where it's like, oh my God, am I listening to Greg? It sounds like you were taught specifically from Greg. It's wild. You're the N of 1, get a baseline, measure your food, and then just start tinkering from there. Mm-hmm. You can decide, but you need somewhere to start, and you need measurements. And then from there, here's what I ate today. Okay, maybe tomorrow I'll eat a little more fat, or I'll eat a little more protein, and see how it affects me. And just take the data points and experiment with yourself.
Mm-hmm. And
go ahead.
This methodology that Greg gave us really is, I want to say magic, but that makes it sound like it's not based in reality. It was such a gift to the world in a way to separate what's true from the bullshit, essentially, right? He revolutionized fitness by just saying something so simple and elegant as like, hey, we should measure it. We should define it, and then we should measure it, force, distance, and time. And then it took away all of the arguing. We don't have to argue ideologically about what's the best training program, or I'm fitter than you and you're whatever. Like, we just measure it. And then we need to keep ourselves grounded in the exact same thing with nutrition. We have measurable outcomes of our performance markers, force, distance, and time. But then, somewhere along the line, when he was talking about fitness being area under the curve, he realized that slice in time isn't necessarily the entire picture. There isn't a one-to-one relationship of fitness to health necessarily. You could find people that were performing at a high level, but actually had very poor health. And so then that added the age axis, and it became the 3D model of health, and it became volume under the curve. And what do we need to know if we're on the right track now, right? You're like, well, my weights are going up and my times are coming down, and the amount of work I can do in an AMRAP is increasing. It seems to be going well, but that's where we introduce the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum, right? We need our health markers, because those are like a crystal ball, predictors of the future. How well are things going to go for you in the future? So if you're performing well right now, but something's wrong with your health markers, that tells you that something is wrong in the training regimen. And the line from What is Fitness in 2002 is, a fitness regimen that does not support health is not CrossFit. And where you find a fitness regimen not supporting health, look first to the diet. Almost certainly something is wrong with the diet. We just had a big headline in Canada. One of the top performing triathletes, Lionel Sanders, triathlon superstar, just announced he's pre-diabetic.
Mm.
So something is wrong there. Very high performing athlete, amazing, but he's pre-diabetic. So that's not a healthy person. Something's missing.
Man, it's so it's crazy. And you know who Greg gives that exact same talk, obviously, and you constantly give him credit. And then he has his own triathlete or marathon guy. He references Tim Noakes, who is like the foremost on the forefront of nutrition science nutrition. And then he's like, holy shit, how did I get diabetes? How did I become pre-diabetic?
Yeah.
I'm not only one of the greatest marathoners to come out of South Africa, but also, and I know the guy, or I'm related to the guy who did the first heart transplant, and I'm a nutrition expert, but I'm pre-diabetic. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
You also have an Instagram account called the Keto Athlete.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. When you said that, I'm like, she got that Instagram handle. That's cool. How long have you had that?
When did I start that? So I started dabbling with keto after my second baby was born, and he's 8. So it'd be about 8 years.
Okay. So in that, are you still big into keto? Do you talk about that? Will you talk about that in the 1-day nutrition course?
Yeah, I'm personally follow a ketogenic diet and have been for the better part of 8 years. I think sometimes people assume, because I go by the keto athlete on Instagram, that I'm very dogmatic, and I think that every single person on earth has to be doing a ketogenic diet, or that that's what I'm pushing on everybody. That's not the case at all. I'm obviously pro keto. I think there's many benefits to it. I think everyone should be able to enter ketosis as a metabolic state when needed. Periods of fasting, endurance exercise, you happen to miss a meal, or you're traveling and you don't get to eat when you planned, that ketosis is just your ability to access your own body fat for fuel. Do I think every single person needs to be in ketosis all the time? No. Am I in ketosis all the time? Also no. But I think it's a maybe misunderstood metabolic state. But that's what the keto athlete was born out of, me experimenting with this thing. And at the time, doing a very low carb diet with CrossFit was like, what? And people would be like, well, what do you eat? And I was like, meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. What do you guys eat? It's like, just eat normal food. And so then I started posting just like what I was eating. I just shared it with the community. Hey, here's what I'm eating. And then some performance markers. It was me recovering from having my baby, and physically and mentally, I had a really difficult mental time with that pregnancy and in the postpartum era. And so then I was just kind of documenting the results. Here's how it's going. Here's how my strength is coming back. Here's how my brain feels. And then people are like, oh, well, it's got to be dangerous. There's got to be something bad that's going to happen. And I was like, I kind of don't think so. And I started reading the research and sharing some of the scientific papers that were coming out, and some of the evidence in support of the outcomes that I was observing, going like, hey, it's not just me. I'm not just some weirdo outlier that's thriving on a super low carb diet. And then me reading lots of the research and the papers was what got into kind of translating the science. And because I had this background as a financial analyst, which is just all math and statistical analysis, I understand how the math is done. And so I could recognize when nutrition papers were doing statistical fuckery, basically. That's a lot of the epidemiology stuff. Yeah. And I could pick out the flaws, and, well, I see why they're saying what they said, but the way that they got there is not correct. It's like the old book, How to Lie with Statistics. And so then I could kind of pick those things out, and I could say like, well, this research is saying this, the conclusions that they're writing don't follow from the data, or this was conducted in a meaningful way. And, translating the science, I got the keto athlete morphed into more of that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, it ended up with me realizing that I had a good background of the math stuff was in place. I could read a paper. I understood fitness and real people. I'd been coaching real people. I knew what worked just from observing things in an actual, call it a clinical setting. And then I was like, but what I don't have is the strong foundation of the science. I don't actually have the base knowledge, which is really just a lot of memorization of like the biochemistry of nutrition, of the science side of what's happening. So then that was like the last piece that was missing, where I was like, okay, I got the math dialed, I got the human people dialed. Now I just got to have that base of science to play in this field. And when I started working for CrossFit on the seminar staff and traveling a lot, I was like, man, I have all this downtime. I'm sitting in airports, I'm sitting in hotel rooms. I'm away from my family and away from my kids anyway. I may as well do something useful with this time. And in that post-COVID era, it was much easier to do more flexible and distance education kind of stuff. The university I ended up doing it through had been a fully online program like since the late 90s. So they had their stuff dialed of how to make distance education work. So yeah, I was like, hey, you know what? When you have ability and opportunity, you gotta hop on those things. Gotta make it happen.
It's wild that you have that biochemistry knowledge too. An example, it's interesting the journey you've taken. You went from McDonald's, where maybe they're like, hey, if we only use 2 dyes on the wrapper and make the wrapper a little smarter, we can make an extra $3 million a year, to the video I watched yesterday. You talk about, one of the examples you give is bone broth
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of bone density and the relationship and why that's such a good food. And you talk about, the bones can be as hard as concrete. And, you have those slides that show, I guess it's microscopic, or it's some super close up shot of the bones. Yeah. You've really taken the full journey from what can we sell people and just get it in their body to make money, to, hey, what actually is going to optimize the human body, the performance, your longevity. That third access you talk about, it's wild. That's another one I don't hear people talk about. I don't hear people talk about blocks. I don't hear people talk about food the way you do, and that third access. And you give a fantastic example in a symposium you gave of a client who had their bone density checked. You just got him into CrossFit, and they had been a gym member, I don't know how long, over 10 years,
Yeah,
and
like
then
15 now. Yeah.
yeah, 15 years. And then the member fell down and broke their wrist, and they had to have their bone density checked again. And it was like just a complete reversal from like negative 1.6 to negative 0.1 or something.
Mm-hmm. I think that stuff's amazing. And we've been on a bit of a kick, a bunch of the women in my gym going to get DEXA scans. There's now one in our city that you can just pay out of pocket to go get a DEXA scan done. We never had access to that here before. So for like $100, you can go get your bone density tested. And, a lot of us have been doing CrossFit for a long time. We're hitting that like midpoint of life now. I'm 41, and as are many of the women in my gym around that age. And um, every single person, every single female has bone density above the 99th percentile, to the point that I want to put a sign outside my gym that says,
Yeah.
we prevent osteoporosis.
Yeah.
And maybe even we cure osteoporosis, because like I said, the woman
you
that I
can't do
talked
that in
about,
Canada. You cannot do that in
I'm
Canada.
gonna get myself in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that in Canada.
Yeah.
I
But
don't know if you can do it in the United States either, but definitely you can't do that in Canada.
yeah. But the data supports that it's true. So, we've been pushing the nutrition prescription: eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. It leads with meat. You need animal products in your diet. You need to eat whole foods, and you need to do resistance training. You need to lift weights. And if you do what seems like the most obvious things, but just with an absolutely mind-numbing amount of consistency for years, your health markers will be not only in the best third of the range, like we talk about, but at the 99th percentile of the range. It's amazing.
Way off subject here, but you don't have a DEXA scan machine in your gym?
No, not a DEXA.
Do you want some fancy machine that does that?
I don't know that I need to have that in my gym. I think it's
Okay.
perfectly fine to be like, hey, go see John at the university. He's got one. He can run the scan for you. An actual DEXA machine is very expensive. You'll find some gyms have the in-body scanners,
Yeah.
where you hold on to the hands
Yeah.
and the feet, and it does bioimpedance. But even that, I'd rather, DEXA is the gold standard for body composition. And there's clinics here that can do it. I don't think I need to, I'll stay in my lane, focus on my specialties.
Okay. If for some reason you want some fancy machine, I promise you, the producer of this show, Matt Souza and Pedro White, they've been representing a bunch of people. And I promise you, Souza could get you some sort of fancy machine.
Interesting.
Yeah. So just
I should talk to him.
contact.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
talk
Just
to him about it.
Yeah. He's a wizard at getting like in the. I don't mean to monetize you or sell you out, but the opportunities that and I obviously don't want you to be influenced by nefarious sources or people out there in the world, but the position that you're holding is wild. The nutrition seminar for CrossFit, and you developed the seminar, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. It's crazy. I mean, I can't congratulate you enough. I'm so excited. Would you have one planned to come to the United States? I really want to go to it.
We don't have one scheduled yet, but hopefully soon. I'll be speaking at the Owners and Coaches Conference that's happening a couple days before the games on a topic about nutrition. That one's more geared towards helping the owners and coaches bring nutrition into the affiliate and teaching the proper technique of nutrition. So I'll be there doing that. And then, after Toronto in June, we don't have one scheduled yet, but we'll have to talk about where we're going next. I think bigger centers would seem like the right place to start, just to have more people to be able to draw from. It's worth CE credits, of course, too, for people at the level 3 and 4.
You said it's June 7th in Saskatoon.
It's in Toronto.
Oh, in Toronto. And is it sold out yet?
I actually don't know. I can't see the registrations until we get closer to the date. So that's a good question.
So June 7th in Toronto, people can sign up on the website. And is this considered like a test run, or is this considered like, are there for sure going to be more?
I mean, that's a decision that's not in my hands, I guess.
Okay.
I hope so. The plan is to have more of them for sure. It certainly would be a lot of work to only do it once.
How did they choose you? I mean, I know after watching your content and talking to you just this little bit here, I know why they chose you, but do you know why they chose you, how the process went down?
I mean, I don't really know in the behind the scenes. I just kept showing up to things and kept talking about nutrition and kept showing up at things and introducing myself to people and just getting to know people, and through CrossFit and, the seminar staff and the level 1s and 2s. And I just really enjoy learning and being a part of the health side of things. Like when Greg was really passionate about CrossFit health pre-COVID, so that kind of 2017, 18, 19, I was like all in with the Mesperts and the health symposiums that he was having. I was like, this is what I'm passionate about. And I started the process of joining the seminar staff in 2019 because I was like, this is the mission I want to be a part of. And then, through the ups and downs of the last bunch of years, it still exists. Like I was at the CrossFit Health Conference in Austin last year, and I was in Atlanta at Greg's Broken Science event in December. And I just like to be there and talk to people. And like I said, put content out, and everyone that's worked with me on seminar staff knows that you're going to hear me talk nonstop about nutrition as we go for breakfast and we go for dinner. So they're like, oh God, this girl really likes nutrition. And then it just made its way onto the radar of the people that make those decisions. I had a good chat with Nicole Carroll at CrossFit for Health in Austin last year. She's like, hey, kind of put the bug in my ear of, we're talking about doing these one-day nutrition or one-day in-person courses. And she's like, we want to do one on nutrition. And she's like, I put your name forward as the person that should do it. And I was like, awesome. And then, there's the process in the background of those decisions being made. And then the opportunity made its way onto my plate late last year, late 2024.
I was nervous for you when I found out about it. I was like, oh shit, what has this lady got herself into? And then I started researching you, and I started listening to you speak, and I'm like, oh, you may be overqualified. I mean, you got this. Your presentation and your knowledge is in the palatability of it, the way you deliver it is second to none. I mean, you truly are gifted at it. When you went to school for human nutrition, when you got your master's in human nutrition, was there anything that stood out? You're like, hey, they got it wrong.
Oh, there's lots. Yeah.
Lots.
Yeah.
But you just cruise along.
Yeah. And the way the whole program worked, it was actually great. So it's a functional medicine based school in the first place. So it tended for the most part to follow more of what we would consider to be proper health and nutrition advice. But
sorry, when you say functional medicine, meaning kind of like, hey, you can heal yourself if you watch what you put in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Functional medicine is really just looking for root cause. So it's still mainstream medicine, MD doctors, but just looking for root cause rather than just medicating symptoms.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of like putting rubber bands on skin tags, it's like, hey, have you considered fasting and stop eating sugar? And then your skin tags go away and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the chronic diseases that are consuming most of a doctor's attention right now can be at least treated or improved with lifestyle interventions, with diet and lifestyle.
And that was the premise of your, that was one of the foundations of your studies, is like when you learn the biochemistry, you're like, yeah, this is what happens if you eat too many carbs. And then you went into the, like, I don't know what it is, looked at how it affected the mitochondria, the cells, and manifestations of too much of something, eating poorly.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the stuff in nutrition at that level is well understood, it's well elucidated, and it's not controversial. Like, we know what iron does in the body, and we know what B12 does in the body. We know what creatine does in the body. We know what amino acids do in the body. And so at that level, there's very little antagonism. There's very little arguing over at the cellular level what's happening with nutrition. But then somewhere as we go layer and layer up, people start to come to very different conclusions about what to eat. And to me, it seemed obvious because we're not defining health. Just like Greg stepped into fitness 25 years ago, and he's like, well, all these fitness plans seem to be way different and arguing over whose is better. He's like, but it's because we haven't defined what fitness is. And so same thing here. We haven't defined what health is. We're eating better, presumably to be healthier, but we have to establish a meaningful definition of what that is, or we can't work together. If we're in healthcare, the trainer, the nutritionist, the doctor, the chiro, the physio, all of these people, that our goal is to improve people's health. Well, for us to get anywhere, we have to have a meaningful definition of health in the first place.
When I first came to CrossFit, I didn't realize the profundity of what Greg did by defining fitness. And one of the things you said is you got into CrossFit and you read What is Fitness, and you had you were like, holy shit, this is it. And you know what's funny? When I used to run the CrossFit podcast, hugely popular, the greatest, as Trump would say.
I used to listen to it all the time.
And that I would hear that all the time. How'd you get into CrossFit? I read What is Fitness. Now that when I heard you say that on a podcast the other day, I was like, holy shit, I haven't heard someone say that in 10 years, 5 years. I haven't heard anyone say that they came in through that door. And it's interesting because I started, there's this show on, I'm not a religious person, but I'm watching this show on Amazon called The Chosen. And it's about Jesus's like tour while he was on planet Earth. And he freed the world from religious law. And I'm like, holy fuck, how this is like he's the greatest civil rights leader ever. Like, he told people they could eat on Saturday now or whatever. Like, what the fuck? How is no one talking about this? Like, this is fucking crazy. And people forget that. And like, every time I hear about Jesus or Christianity, it's all of the like, hey, if you don't follow Jesus, you're not going to heaven. But there's all this other crazy shit he did. Now I'm like, oh, no wonder they changed all the calendars to be around this dude's birthday. He set the world free. He gave us unalienable fucking rights. And when I think about Greg, it's so interesting. It's along that same line. Sorry, I don't mean to be blasphemous for those of you who are religious out there. But his definition of what is fitness was like massive. And there was a guy who I worked with named Brian Mulvaney. He was one of Greg's like right-hand man. He was everywhere. Great dude. And he was always like, once a month I'd hear him say, whisper in Greg's ear, you have to do what is health. Like what you're saying, you have to do what is health. And you said something really awesome in one of these videos. You said a lot of awesome things, but one of the things you said, I wrote down here, is you said CrossFit. This is I consider this as, I don't know if I would consider this the definition of CrossFit, but the application of CrossFit. And I remember Greg used to say this during the Obama years when he saw that they were putting in Obamacare. And that was really kind of freaking Greg out because he thought that was the beginning of the end of healthcare. And he said, and he said this, and then differently than you said it, but you said CrossFit is putting you in the driver's seat of your health. And that's like really true.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do you want to be in the driver's seat of your health? And I was like, wow, Jocelyn really got this shit. Like, yeah, that's why we do it. That's what, eventually everyone who does it long enough gets to that point, right? You like when you first do it, you're like, oh, I really want to have a good Fran time, or like, I can't wait till I can jerk, blah, blah, blah. But then you reach 50, like me, 52. And I do it because it puts me in the driver's seat of my health. I listen to people like you so I can be like, okay, what did I just learn from her? So I can be put in the driver's seat of my health. It's like ultimate personal accountability and responsibility. And then of course, with accountability and responsibility comes happiness.
Yeah. It's really true.
That's the source of happiness.
And I mean, we see all kinds of things happening in healthcare, US system, Canadian system. They're all chaotic and failing in their own ways. And you go like, well, my goal is to stay out of the healthcare system for as long as possible. Like, I'm the worst patient ever because I don't need anything.
Yeah.
No medications. I have no issues. I don't need to go to my doctor for anything. Like, I'm the worst customer of the healthcare industry because what have I been doing? Constantly varied functional movement, executed at my relatively high intensity. I've been eating meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. I've been applying intensity to one workout a day. I've been resting every third or fourth day. I've just been following the CrossFit methodology for a long time. Will be 17 years. And there's no magic to it. There's no biohack or what supplements do you take or whatever. It's like, no, just doing the most obvious and borderline mundane things for a mind-numbing amount of time.
Do you think that scares people? I never thought of that until just now. I said to you, if you say, hey, I can put you in the driver's seat of your health. I know it's not a definition of CrossFit, but it's really palatable as the application of CrossFit. But do you think that scares people? Like, hey, I can put you in the driver's seat of your health. Do you think people are like, oh, I want that responsibility?
I think there's two different types of people that rise to a statement like that, and they go, hell yeah, I want to be in charge. I want to be in charge of me. I want to be the one that's responsible for my own outcomes. And then there's a type of person, and maybe if their health is not at the best place, and you're like, I'm going to teach you to be in the driver's seat of your health, that's going to require them to acknowledge their own role in the situation that they've created for themselves. And that's a difficult psychological thing for people to accept, is basically like you're talking about the personal responsibility of the choices that you've made have had these particular set of results. And you don't, have a chronic disease. You gave yourself a chronic disease. Some in the healthcare industry now are, instead of calling them chronic diseases or NCOs, non-communicable diseases, they're calling them lifestyle diseases, or even I've heard them called optional diseases, to give people the idea that these conditions, the diabetes, the Alzheimer's, the heart disease, these are optional. You opt into them with your choices, but it's an accumulation of choices over a really long period of time. You can make poor nutrition choices for 20 years before you really start to suffer the consequences. And then at that moment when people are suffering the consequences, and now they're looking wide-eyed like, oh no, what have I done? And now that if you're going to put yourself in the driver's seat of your health, it's also going to require you to psychologically take responsibility for the place that you've gotten yourself to, which is, I mean, I'm empathetic to that. No joke. That's difficult.
Yeah. I had a family member who this is many years ago. I can't remember the exact discussion, but we were talking about doctors. And I was like, hey man, that's not true what that doctor told you. You should look at other ways. And she told me that she hears me and she probably thinks I'm right, but it's too scary for her to not be able to not have ultimate trust in her doctor. Mm-hmm. Like she couldn't even get, like, that terrified her. And I get that. I forget that all the time, that people who are still like really in the system, that there's something out there that's taking care of you. It's terrifying for them to think like, hey, you could get a misdiagnosis with a mammogram. Mm-hmm. Like that can't happen to me. But then you look at the stats and you're like, oh shit, the people who didn't get the mammograms, die less from cancer than people who did. And you're like, yeah. Jeremy, say that again.
I was going to say it rattles the confidence in the system.
Yeah. Completely terrifies them. And that takes us back to, do you want to be in the driver's seat? And I think that we have a whole generation of people who don't even think that's possible, because they've put they've put the system on some sort of going back to religious plateau. They see the system as their God. Mm-hmm. They don't even know it.
And I think we can, if you look back at a little bit of even just recent history, it makes sense how we got here.
Yes.
Through the 20th century, there was all these amazing advancements in medicines that cured diseases. And even nutrition went through this too, right? At the early part of the 20th century, we discover all the vitamins, and then we discover how to cure all the deficiency diseases, scurvy, rickets, pellagra. They were deficiencies of single nutrients, and you could replace that nutrient with a supplement and you could make the disease go away. 100% of people with vitamin C deficiency get scurvy, and 100% of people with scurvy, when you give them vitamin C, recover. Like, you cure the disease, single factor, single cause, single cure. And so it elevates it to this godlike status of, you know, and it happened with infectious disease, and we develop antibiotics, and we develop vaccines against things. And, you know, we got into this, like, there's no amount of like thrusters and burpees that's going to cure tuberculosis. You know, if you have a bacterial infection, the medicines that cure that are antibiotics. And so the doctor had the medicines and the patient had the disease, and you go to the doctor and they cure you. They give you this like essentially magic pill. And it really was revolutionary. The top 10 causes of death, you know, in that early part of the 20th century, it's all public health and infectious disease type stuff. Modern medicine absolutely crushes it in that department. And also orthopedics, surgeries, our ability to put people back together. So the use of anesthetics, the use of antibiotics, and the ability to, you know, where a broken femur used to be a death sentence. Now, you know, you have your surgery, you do your physio, and you're back on your feet in 6 to 12 months kind of thing. But then we got into everybody involved is at fault. The patients lost their autonomy or self-efficacy to be like, well, I don't have a role in this. I have an infection. I have to go to the doctor. They give me the medicine. The doctors were like, well, I cure people. So I am, you know, at the top of this hierarchy. And then when we conquered those particular public health challenges and top causes of death, well, now later part of the 20th century, now obesity starts to climb and type 2 diabetes starts to climb, and it becomes all about chronic disease. Chronic disease doesn't have a single factor, single cure. There's no pill or surgery that fixes those things. But because this was the tool we'd used to make these amazing advancements, we kept trying to use the same tool. We kept trying to use a hammer when we needed a screwdriver. And patients kept thinking like, well, I have a disease, and so I go to my doctor and they're supposed to cure me. I don't have a role to play in this.
And not only that, they don't want to take the role, right? How much easier would it be if a doctor just said, here's your Ozempic?
Yeah. And that's kind of thing. Everybody's at fault here. It's not right. Some people like to get really critical of doctors. Some people like to get really critical of patients. I think it's like, we're all part of this. And then there's the economic influences of the pharmaceutical manufacturers and the food manufacturers, right? So there's some serious economic factors at play there. And so like Greg would say, when you're drowning, you needed a swim coach. But when you're drowning, now you need a lifeguard. And so the doctors are the lifeguards. If I get in a car accident, absolutely take me to the hospital. Don't take me to the CrossFit gym. But if you have chronic disease, the doctor is going to have very little in the way of tools to actually make that better. What you needed when you're, drowning, what you needed was the swim coach, and the CrossFit gym, the trainers, the nutritionists. Those are the swim coaches. And then the doctors are the lifeguards. Both essential, both amazing, both save lives in their own way, and not against each other, but on the same side of trying to make people healthier and live better lives.
Yeah, and people, it's funny. Technology's like that too. So, doctor, I'm crazy. Okay. What I need you to do is, I need you to throw. You're 20 years old. Yes. Okay. Well, here it's 100% 20-year-old, and you're on social media 5 hours a day. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. 100% of people who are 20 years old who are on social media 5 hours a day go batshit crazy. Just throw your phone away. It's that easy. Yep. You're done. None of that information that you're reacting to, it's gone. I cured you. Or here's some Prozac and Xanax.
Yeah. And then
when all you had to do was literally throw your phone away. By the way, those are actual numbers. I actually ran the study out of Stanford myself. Not true. But I'm a firm
peer reviewed. Sounds true.
Yeah. Top three. But I mean, how if everything, if you're talk about journaling. If every time you feel crazy, you journaled it compared to what you just saw on your phone, I bet you it's the numbers are conclusive. Jeremy World, top 3 current societal epidemics: lack of self-awareness, lack of personal accountability, and enablers. Wow, that's a pretty good list. Yeah, the enabler thing is absolutely wild. It's funny. I think I wonder why there are so many enablers. So people enable out of the I call it because they're feigning kindness.
Mm-hmm. Nice versus kind.
Yeah, like they're trying to be like Yeah, they're trying to help you. That's solid, Jeremy. Lauren Knowles, can you address the use of GLP-1s? First, you have to tell me what that is before you address it, please. And then Weight Watchers is filing bankruptcy. Seems like no one wants to do any work to lose weight. Hi, Lauren. What's a GLP-1 and what are they used for? What's she asking?
Okay, so the GLP-1s are like Ozempic and Wegovy, the glucagon-like peptide-1 receptor agonist drugs. Ozempic, right? The weight loss drugs that are taking over society right now.
Are they really as popular? I hear so many jokes about them, and we're talking about them. And like, if you hang out with girls, anytime a girl loses weight now, I hear all the other girls be like, she's on Ozempic. And I'll be like, how the fuck do they know? They're like, well, she stopped drinking and she's doing this. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So GLP-1 is an incretin hormone secreted by the gut, and it signals satiety. It signals that you're full, gives you the signal to stop eating. So the drugs, the Ozempic, the Wegovy, they are receptor agonists. So the receptors where GLP-1s would normally dock to, these drugs dock there and stimulate the receptor. So it basically is a pharmaceutical way of making yourself feel full. It does a few things, slows digestion.
Oh, that's not cool. That's not
cool. Well, so it slows gastric emptying.
Yeah, so I don't like that. Pooping's top two activities in life.
Yeah. So it makes you feel full for longer because it's slowing the rate that food moves through your digestive system. But then one of the major side effects can be paralysis of the smooth muscles that should move food through the system. So massive impacted colons, food that's not moving. Some of that gastric paralysis can be permanent in some people.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I think the side effects, once something makes it through the clinical trials, there's only so many people that are tested in the clinical trials. And then once it makes its way into the population and millions of people start using it, you start seeing these less likely or more rare side effects pop up because you needed a larger sample size to find them. So it looks actually similar to what happens when people abuse opiates. And same thing, an opiate slows everything. It can slow breathing, but it also slows smooth muscle contraction. And so people end up in the ER with these massively impacted colons because food is just not moving through. So
they're just full of shit.
They're full of shit. Yep, that's pretty much what's
like
happening.
Literally fecal matter. They're all.
Yeah. So that can be very dangerous. And really
worse than peanut butter. Worse than peanut butter.
What it's doing is making people eat less. So when you're consuming less food, then it's a caloric restriction diet. You're presumably also eating less protein. And if you're not making a concerted effort to hit protein targets and doing some resistance training, about 50% of the weight loss is muscle, is lean tissue, which is not what you want. Your muscle and bone is your health savings account. And any intervention of any kind that decreases your lean body mass is not supporting long-term health. So while the loss of body fat can be positive, if it comes with a concomitant loss of lean tissue, that are we net negative or are we net positive here becomes really dicey. We're basically inducing frailty early in life with people. So there was I can't remember her name, who she was, but she posted a video that went viral. She's quite young, of her coming out of her doctor's office after using Ozempic for a while and saying, I just was diagnosed with osteoporosis. She's like maybe 30, not even. And so that loss of lean tissue, muscle, and bone is serious. Like, you don't want to have low bone density. You don't want to have low muscle mass. And then the consequence of that is if people come off these drugs, now they have less metabolically active tissue. So if they go back to eating even the same amount they were eating before, they don't have as much muscle using up that fuel for energy. And so then they gain not only the same weight back, but more. So now they have more body fat with less lean body mass. So they end up in the end in a potentially worse situation than before.
That's the thought of reducing my bone density sounds like a horror film.
Yeah.
Like frail bone sounds like a nightmare. So what causes the frailty is you take these pills, they give you the sense of I guess what I understood is there's two mechanisms. One, it attaches to the receptor, making you think you're full, but then also it slows down the passing of the food through, I guess, your colon or whatever that is, your intestines. And so that also makes you think you're full. And then so you start eating less. So then you're not getting the nutrition to have dense bones. Did I understand all that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Your bones are built out of, people think bones, they think calcium. Actually, 50% of the dry weight of your bones is protein, collagen protein. So if you're just under eating food in general and specifically under eating protein, you'll have low bone density. You also do need the vitamins and minerals. You need vitamin K2, which comes from the fat of grass-fed animals, which direct calcium into the bones. You need to have calcium from your usually animal products, dairy mostly, but also like salmon, bones, things like that. And then you need vitamin D. Vitamin D is synthesized in the skin from cholesterol. So you need saturated fats to be able to make vitamin D. So if you're just low in food in general, and specifically low in very nutrient dense animal products, it depletes your bone density.
Is that why the doctors try to give the baby like a vitamin K shot? They're trying to harden up the bones.
So there's two types of vitamin K. Vitamin K1 you find in green leafy things, and it's involved in blood clotting. So it actually came from like a German chemist named it for coagulation, which they spell with a K in German. So it's involved in all your clotting factors. So bleeding diseases like hemophilia type things may need extra K1. And then K2 is all involved in bone mineralization. So it's super important for kids. If you want your kids to have proper facial development and straight teeth and like what would generally be recognized as a good looking face and strong bones that develop, they need quite a bit of K2.
And where do you get that? Just out in nature?
So vitamin K1 is in green leafy things. So this wonderful food production system called a cow eats the green grass, and then their gut bacteria ferments K1 into K2. And so then it's a fat soluble vitamin. So it makes its way into the fat of grass-fed animals. So butter, all, high fat dairy products, but also beef tallow from ruminant animals. So mostly cows, but also, bison, elk, moose, anything, deer, venison that you can get your hands on.
Is that the kind of stuff you learned in school?
Yeah.
Like that's the human nutrition thing. That's the biochemistry.
Yeah. Nerdy nutrient stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That shit's, I mean, God, that's so important. You're just on a side subject about your affiliate. So you've had the affiliate for how many years? 16?
Yeah. We started in 2008. So we're in year 17.
And the story is I think a lot of us either met someone who told us about a crazy workout, but you saw the hardest workout in the world posted in a magazine. And you and David, your husband, are like, hey, fuck that. We're fit. Let's tear this shit up. And then you had your ass handed to you, and it was fight gone bad.
Yeah.
And
like many of us, just crushed ego death, thought I was fit, found out I was not. And first was mad about it, and then was like, oh, that's got to be stupid. And then went like, oh, I better figure this out. Like, why am I so bad at this? And mostly, like, what have I been doing with my time? I've been in the gym 2 hours a day, and I run and I go to yoga and I do all these things. Like, how am I not fit? How do I not have the work capacity to do what seemed like a simple workout? And then we got ourselves to our first level 1 later that year. And then we affiliated our personal training studio. And then we really never looked back since.
You know what is interesting about coming into CrossFit though, from like the good thing about all the years of doing back and buys and lat pull downs and all those things. The good thing is a lot of us have really good movement patterns. We move well because we move slowly. And when we move slowly, we're paying attention to our body and we're in our body. So I really respect what you said about wasting time, because I think about the martial arts all the time. Like, someone gets a black belt in Taekwondo in 4 years, and that they're probably a bitch and they can't fight anyone. But if you go to, and it's kind of sad, they wasted their fucking time spending all this money, dedicating it to go to a certain martial arts gym. You got to find the right gym so that you're acquiring the tools that you want, which is, to be able to fend someone off at the ATM. But at least with CrossFit, no matter where, if you're, wouldn't you think that, like, if you're moving, like yoga people do great when they come into CrossFit. They do.
I will say
fantastic.
that was a huge win for me when I started CrossFit, is that I was very flexible. So I could at least be in the right positions in the first place. I wasn't very fit. I wasn't very athletic. I didn't play sports growing up at all. So I had no developmental background in my peak developmental years as a kid. But at the very least, I wasn't super tight. So I could be in a good squat. I could be in an overhead squat without issues in the beginning.
Or like, when they're like, keep the bar close to you, like, what that means. Or like, hey, push your hip back a little bit first before you bend your knees. Like some people just can't do that because they just haven't spent any time with their body, or they didn't have good coaches, or that they were doing a sport that just, they didn't think about that stuff.
I'm like a hilariously unathletic person. I'm not naturally well coordinated. And I think that's maybe what makes me well suited to the coaching role is none of these things came naturally to me, that none of them came easily. I had to think and work about things a lot. So maybe that makes it easier to understand people in that situation and teach it. And I'm a good mover now. But it certainly was not always that way. And it's easy to look at it and be like, oh, Jocelyn has a great squat, or Jocelyn can snatch well, or whatever. But it definitely was not always that way.
Could I ask you, this is really superficial, but I want to look at this line, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, keep intake to levels that will support exercise, but not body fat. Can we go through just some of these and you tell me like what you think are the good meats and the good vegetables and the good nuts, like just like some of your like ones that to go to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we start at meat, like, there's organ meats, and then there's the ones that swim in the water, and then there's the ones that cluck around and lay eggs. Is there a preferred meat?
Well, I think get your hands on the highest quality you have access to and can afford.
And what does
So,
that mean, high quality?
like grass-fed meats, pastured meats, wild caught seafoods, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Certainly those things would be better, but don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Like if all you have access to or can afford is more conventionally produced beef or pork or chicken, like that's still fine. If you can, we have a relationship with a farmer just outside Saskatoon. She does this amazing regenerative agriculture, whole managed ecosystem, like the Joel Salatin style farming. And so we do lots with her to try to get the best quality meats for our family. It also supports someone local in our community. It's also better for the environment, like all of these reasons. So if you can do that stuff, awesome. But if you can't, do the best you can. The most nutritious meats are going to be red meats, your ruminant animals. So they'll have amazing high quality protein, but also creatine, heme iron in the form you need it, the B vitamins, especially B12, all these micronutrients that you'll hear them in the media. Oh, creatine seems to be everywhere right now.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're seeing that everywhere? The benefits of creatine.
Dude, my mom said to me the other day, I'm taking some creatine. Like my mom doesn't take, like, that's not my mom. I mean, she's a CrossFitter and all, but like I could never thought in a million years I'd hear her say she's taking creatine.
And creatine's in red meat. So
right.
Where you get creatine in the diet before supplements were invented was in red meat. So ruminant animals are those that have a rumen, a bacterial rumen that ferments plants into usually short chain fatty acids and other things, small vitamins and minerals, as opposed to a monogastric animal, which is what we are. It's what pigs are, that don't have that rumen like a cow does, or elk or moose or any of those things. So anywhere in the media that you're seeing the benefits of creatine, you're seeing the benefits of eating meat, of eating red meat. So mental health benefits, performance benefits, bone density benefits, all these things. You should be getting those things from food. And if I have one message as like the nutrition lady in CrossFit, it's like, you should eat real food.
Yeah, I've heard you say that a bunch. Real food.
And it's like the least sexy nutrition message of all time. Cause it's like, I don't have an app to sell you. I don't need you to pay me money every month to tell you some complicated macronutrient prescription. It's like, I just need you to take whatever food product you're going to buy, turn it over, read the ingredients. And if it's not food, don't eat it. It's like the most simple thing, but very difficult to navigate in the food system now.
I never knew that the first stomach is called the rumen.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Learn some stuff.
Yeah, you're teaching me. The first stomach of a ruminant, which receives food or cud from the esophagus, partly digests it with the aid of bacteria and passes it to the rectum. So is that really, the rumen is also known as, what does it say? As a paunch, is the largest stomach compartment in ruminants. Okay, so something happens in there that then when we get those animals that do that, we get something good from them.
Mm-hmm. It's an amazing upcycling machine that relies on bacteria. The microbiome of those animals is really an incredible apparatus ecosystem that turns grass that's inedible to humans into basically the most nutritious food on earth.
Are bears ruminants?
Bears are not. I don't think so. Because
So like
bears
someone
eat
who
all
eats,
kinds of stuff.
and is that maybe like why we don't eat bear meat?
Yeah, I mean, you can eat bear meat. It just it doesn't taste. People would probably not enjoy it. But people here, I live pretty far north in Canada. People hunt bear and they'll eat it. The
But it
bear
won't
fat.
have. But it won't have what's in the meat that you're saying because it doesn't go through the rumen, the process that happens in the rumen.
Like any animal product is going to have a good selection of high quality protein. And by high quality, we always just mean you can digest it easily and it has all the amino acids that you need, the building blocks.
Okay.
So
Okay.
lower quality proteins are harder to digest and they're missing some of the components that you need. They're missing certain amino acids. Amino acids are like Lego blocks. The proteins are what you build out of the Lego blocks. There's 20 amino acids you use to build every bit of you. And there's some that are considered essential. You have to get them from the diet. And then there's some that you can make from the other ones. So they're considered non-essential.
Hey, so the cow, you like the cow as a dietary source. Is egg, would you consider egg a meat?
Yep, like any animal product. So in
Eggs
that
are meat.
eat meats category in our nutrition prescription, that's just the bucket for all animal products. So seafood, all the animals, all the dairy products, eggs, all that kind of stuff goes together. Eggs are awesome. I eat at least 5 eggs every day. Seafood is great, especially if you can get your hands on good quality stuff. The oily cold water fish, salmon, mackerel, it's really high in the omega-3s. The only supplement we talk about in the nutrition lecture at the level 1 is a fish oil supplement, which again, if you could just get it from food would be ideal. But if you can't afford or don't have access to, decent sources of oily cold water fish in your diet, then a supplement is the next best thing.
Hey, this is way off subject. How I can make myself poop on command, but just like it's pretty crazy. I could just put my attention down there to my butthole, and then I can just make myself poop. But but another way I can do it is I can just drink a pint of water. Is that normal?
Well, it's not something I've ever heard of before.
Oh, really? Okay.
As a skill on command, but maybe people don't talk about it enough.
So maybe it's just Pavlovian. I mean, I remember when I figured it out. I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing when I figured it out. I remember just putting all my attention down there towards my anus and then just breathing. And then I was like, wow, I can just poop on command. But also, I used to use this trick and I don't have to use it anymore. But if I just drink a pint of water, it's got to go. Like I could poop and then just drink a pint of water and have to poop again.
I mean, I think
I always just thought of it as like flushing the toilet. Like I just poured it in and it just it just went straight there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you have really amazing control over your autonomic nervous system. You can just control those smooth muscles on command.
Yeah, I can.
Very next level, very high level.
That seems right about me.
And okay, am I correct in saying that you've done some nutrition experiments lately as a carnivore diet?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I fuck with fasting a lot. Fasting's a trip for me because it really makes my body feel good, but it does not make my mood feel good. I get very lazy, and it's so weird. Like I really don't want to do anything when I'm fasting.
Yeah. What's the longest you've gone with animal products only, carnivore, no plants?
Not long, 5 days, 6 days. And then I usually end up being like, I'll be like, oh, I'm just going to go down and get a clamshell of arugula and I'll just eat, you know what I mean? And I'll stuff it in.
Yeah. I think carnivore is an interesting one. There's people out there, cowboy and stuff, trying it themselves. And especially lots of people with autoimmune conditions finding really amazing relief from symptoms with just eliminating plants and going all animal foods.
How long do you think I need to do, what do you think's a better, would you be like, hey, give it 30 days, see what happens?
I mean, I'm in favor of any experiment you want to do. If you were trying to address a specific, like I said, autoimmune or real health condition, then you'd want to give it a good solid 4 to 6 weeks at least. But if you're like, I just want to see how I feel. I did strict carnivore for 7 weeks one time just to see, and did blood work at the start and blood work at the end and, some body composition stuff. I was like, I just want to see what happens. I wasn't trying to address any.
And how did you feel? Were you stoked?
I felt amazing. Yeah. Really good. Digestion was amazing. My body felt great. The only thing I would say is it's just a bit boring in the food that you eat. And I really like cooking and flavors and food. And so I was like, well, I am not trying to manage any health condition with eating this way. So it seemed beneficial but unnecessary to go to that level of restriction. So I would still say I eat probably 90% animal foods and not a lot of plants, but I don't purposely avoid plant foods like crazy.
If what do you think how long do you think it takes? Let's say you really wanted to get into ketosis fast. So let's say if you started with a 24-hour fast, right?
Mhm.
And then you switch to meat, to the carnivore diet. How many days do you think how many days of discipline do you need before it gets easier? Before you're not like, God, I really just want a handful of nuts.
I mean, I think it depends on the starting place. And I think it depends on your food habits. Are you pretty routine and regimented? Do you do a lot of mindless snacking? Do you do a lot of emotional eating? In which case you have to retrain habits of like
all that. I do
when you're
all that.
stressed out.
I do emotional eating and habit eating.
Then
And
you really
anytime my blood sugar level drops, I just want to eat. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh, my blood sugar is dropping. And I know now, I didn't know until I got a glucose monitor. Like, God, this is so weird. I get tired and hungry at the same time, which makes sense, right?
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
What else have you noticed from your glucose monitor? You have dips in blood sugar sometimes?
Oh, no, I mean, no, really, I just have spikes. I only had it for 2 days before the thing popped off, and it cost $50 to stick one on there, right? Or something like that, or $25. So I haven't stuck another one on there. But, I know with 2 days, I only noticed, like, I was surprised when I ate sweet potatoes, my blood sugar level skyrocketed. I was really shocked at that. And then, the 2 nights I slept, it was interesting. When I first fell asleep, it dropped really low, and then right before I woke up, it dropped really low. And then, I noticed it stayed just like, no, like, I wanna say like 87 or something just all day. And then, when I exercised, it shot up to like 111 or something. I didn't do a hard workout. I was just like putzing around in the garage for like 30 minutes. I didn't know, but I only had it for 2 days. I didn't do anything crazy. Like, I wanted to do crazy shit, like wear it for like a week and be really disciplined and then drink a Coke and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I need to try it again.
I love using glucose monitors. We've been able to buy them over the counter in Canada like this whole time. You can just buy them at Costco.
How much are they?
Well, we use the Freestyle Libres, and you can get them for like between 85 and $90, depending on the pharmacy.
Per sensor, or does it come with 2?
So per sensor.
Oh.
And that's Canadian dollars. So that's like not even real money.
Okay.
And then sometimes if you ask nicely, the pharmacist can write you a prescription for it. And then you can use some extended health benefits if you have through your employer to get it covered.
How long does yours stay on your arm?
14 days. Those ones are good for.
Yeah, mine.
You do have to be careful. Yeah. To not like.
Someone told me to stick it on my butt.
Oh, sometimes you had the Dexcom, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you can put those ones in other places. Sometimes on the hip. It depends. So wherever it's not going to get caught on things. And then there's like you can use K-tape, or there's patches you can buy that fit specifically over them to keep them from getting caught on things. I put one in one time and then went to pull a load of laundry out of the dryer and caught it, and within a few hours ripped it out. I was like, oh, dang it.
Yeah, my kids, when it was on my arm, they were like, I didn't realize how much my kids banging. It was all day, every day. I would feel like these tears, like from something, and I'd be like, "What, dude? Stay off the triceps." I had no idea.
You have to be careful. It's interesting. One of my favorite studies of all time had couples wear continuous glucose monitors, and then they tracked how often they were fighting, and they gave them voodoo dolls of their spouse, and they tracked how often they wanted to stab pins into the voodoo dolls. And it perfectly matched with when their blood glucose was dipping. So when they were eating poorly and they were getting these spikes, and then an hour or two later getting this rebound hypoglycemia, that hypoglycemia is not good. The body sends out a stress response to get glucose to come back up from the liver. The brain sends out stress hormones, and that comes with that agitated, irritable feeling. And it made people fight with each other, and it made them want to stab their spouses in the voodoo doll with the pins. It's one of my favorite. I think it's the funniest like study design ever, but it really does correlate with mood.
So I was taking the boys somewhere, and this is another spike I saw on the glucose monitor. I was taking the boys somewhere, and they were in the bedroom playing. I could hear them wrestling. I have 3 little boys. I'm like, "Hey guys, let's get ready. Hey guys, let's get ready." Then 5 minutes later, I'm going to the car, and I go in the bedroom, and they're not ready at all. They're a fucking mess. The room's destroyed from them fighting. And I'm like, "Hey guys, what the fuck is going on? we were supposed to fucking leave 5 minutes ago. And then later on in the day, I looked and I had a
like,
shot. I had a
spike.
shot. Yep, I had a spike.
Yeah.
And to me, when I'm yelling at them like that, I'm faking. I thought I was just faking it, like just to get them going. But my body had a fight or flight, I guess, or some sort of like, hey, I'm ready to fucking mash you little monsters. But it was crazy. I was like, oh.
Like physiological responses exist for a reason. Like that was evolved to prepare you to fight or flight. And so it stimulates the liver to spit out some glucose. So you have high octane fuel. It raises your blood pressure. It increases your heart rate. It even narrows your vision and your focus. It prepares you to do high intensity physical activity.
Yeah.
And so if you have stressful moments, spikes of that stress response in your day, sure, there are meditative calming practices you can do to try to bring it back down. But ultimately, the best thing you need to do is high intensity exercise. You need to give your body the chance to dump all that response that it prepared you for. And so that's why things like CrossFit are the best stress management, stress mitigation strategy that you have, because flight, that's sprinting. So do any kind of high intensity sprinting, run away, sprint on the echo bike. And then fight is max power effort things. So we mimic it with like a 1 rep max clean and jerk or a heavy deadlift, or you can go to jujitsu and roll with your buddies, but those are max power output things. That's what fight is. So when your body's got you with fight or flight, that's why the importance of doing constantly very functional movements plays into health, because if all that glucose hangs out and all that high blood pressure stays around and, the heart rate stays high and it doesn't ever get to do what it was intended to do, it's almost like those systems start to rot in the presence of not ever getting to reach the full expression of what those systems were for.
Barry, I'm going to get to your question and your question in a second. What's the quantity wise? Is there a limit to how much meat you should eat at any one sitting? Like, should you keep it to like 4 ounces or?
I think there used to be the body can only assimilate 30 grams of protein at a time, was I think now considered a myth. That I saw a paper this morning that showed up to 100 grams of protein at a time was still having positive results on muscle protein synthesis. So I don't think specific to any one sitting, there's like a maximum. And really, if you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, would we have had small amounts and 5 meals a day spaced out, or would we have had a kill and a massive feast and then a long gap until the next kill and a massive feast? Like that's probably more the situation that we're adapted to.
And I'm way out of my depth here saying this to you, but isn't there a certain amount of meat that you wouldn't have a significant insulin response? It would be if you just ate 4 ounces as opposed to if you ate 16 ounces.
Protein can have a small insulin response. It's minute in comparison to the insulin response you get from jacking your blood glucose up in response to carbohydrate. I think that, and again, with this, like all systems exist for a reason. And no thing that your body does is exclusively bad. We know all the negative effects of hyperinsulinemia, but that doesn't mean that insulin is bad or the goal is zero insulin. Zero insulin is type 1 diabetes. That's very bad. It's fatal if left untreated.
Okay.
So there's this, all things in biology exist on U-shaped curves. There's too little, not good. Too much, not good. Somewhere in the middle, Goldilocks zone, perfect. And that's everything. Water. You don't drink enough water, you'll die of dehydration, but you drink too much water, you can die of
brain swelling.
Yeah, it messes with your electrolytes to the point that you can die from too much water. Oxygen is the same. Not enough oxygen, no good. Too much oxygen becomes an issue. Like for scuba divers are familiar with oxygen toxicity as a risk of breathing high percentages of oxygen underwater, causes seizures and you can die. So like insulin, inflammation, glucose, stress hormones, cortisol, water, oxygen, all these things are not exclusively good or bad. And the goal is not as much as possible or as little as possible. It's like somewhere is this sweet spot of balance, of homeostasis in the middle.
Barry McCogner, what about red meat raising cholesterol? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the saturated fats, animal products tend to be higher in saturated fats, which are stable. It just means that the way the fat molecule is made, every carbon has a hydrogen. It's like a long banquet table sitting at it. It does raise cholesterol, and plant oils will lower cholesterol, LDL cholesterol specifically. But we don't know, I don't think, whether we can say that that's good or bad. And I think the cholesterol equals bad, again, is a vast overstatement. And I mean, Sivan, you've been around through all of this stuff of the risk of statins, like the long-term implications and the side effects are really, really terrifying when you look at the actual data and you look at stuff that's not industry sponsored. When you understand the biology of what cholesterol is for and how essential it is to the entire functioning of life. So this idea of like lower cholesterol's bad. Women, especially low LDL past about my age, is associated with higher all-cause mortality, worse mental health, like dementia and cognitive outcomes. LDL is a part of the immune system. So low LDL would make you more prone to like sepsis, infectious type issues, and that sort of thing. So I think we can have observations, and Greg would call what's a fact. It's an observation that we make on a tool with a known margin of error. But then what do we do with those facts? Red meat raises cholesterol. Okay, is that good or bad? Well, we don't know. We need the context of everything else. Is it in the context of a high sugar, high ultra processed food, high insulin, high inflammation diet? Then it's probably not a good thing. Then those particles that should be helpful can probably turn oxidized and negative and harmful towards you. Is it high LDL in the context of low glucose, low insulin, low inflammation, high HDL, and low triglycerides? Well, then it's probably health protective. So I think this equals good or this equals bad is tempting because people love these little short sound bites. But then unfortunately, things are more complicated. These are complex systems. There's more nuance to it. A great paper, I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing, just came out on lean mass hyperresponders. I don't know if you follow Dave Feldman and any of this stuff in the cholesterol. So it's a common phenomenon. People like us in the world of CrossFit, lean, high muscle mass people on a low carb, high protein, high animal fat diet will have this trifecta: high LDL cholesterol, high HDL cholesterol, which is the good cholesterol, and low triglycerides. High HDL, high LDL, low triglycerides. And they made this argument that in that context of these people, it's a very rare, small sliver of society that's like that high LDL is not of concern. It's not causing cardiovascular disease. So they took a cohort of people that met this criteria. They matched them with other people with similar health markers, age, sex, that kind of stuff, from this other Miami Heart cohort. They had them come in and do a coronary artery calcium scan as a baseline, and then they followed them for a year, and they had them come back and do another one. And so they're like, if high LDL is dangerous, we should see a progression of calcification of the arteries. We should see heart disease developing, right? If the hypothesis is true, this is what we would see. And what they found at the initial scan was these people had high LDL for an average of at least 4.5 years from when it first showed up in their health records, and 0 calcified arteries in the first scan. So they're like, well, that's interesting on its own. They're like, but let's see if this high LDL is dangerous. So they follow them for a year. The follow-up study just came out. So excuse me if I don't have all the full details at the front of my brain yet. I haven't read the whole paper, but no progression. I've seen the headlines and watched a couple, summaries of it. No coronary artery progression. So apparently some people can walk around with sky high LDL and they don't develop cardiovascular disease. And you're like, that's data. We got to do something with that. What does that mean? How do we interpret that? How does that change clinical guidelines? Should those people be recommended a statin? Well, it's but they're not getting heart disease. So why would they need to be on a medication that prevents heart disease? So there's lots of really interesting stuff going on as we understand this cholesterol whole puzzle and question. And it's probably a lot more complex than we thought, or we would like to think. It'd be great if it was simple, and it's just simply not.
There's 3 things I'd just like to throw in there. I know the show's about you, but the 3 things that I kind of believe, I'm not saying that they're fact. I believe that pretty much you can eat anything you want and it's not bad for you if you don't mix it with sugar. So don't eat sugar, and you can have as much salt and as much butter as you want. The second you add sugar, you add a complexity to it, and you cause problems. And I'll give a couple examples. In that Framingham survey that they call a study that now today that made statins the #1 selling drug in the world, there was this thing. There was a part of the study, if I recall correctly, is that in someone check this. If you don't take my word on this, but as I remember hearing all these people come into HQ and talk about it, that the women who lived the longest had the highest cholesterol levels in the world. The women who lived the longest, once they made it past the age of 65.
Mm-hmm.
So and the implication there is that it wasn't cholesterol who was killing these 60-year-old women or these 50-year-old women, but the lifestyle choices that they were making while having high cholesterol. And they never report that. And it's a survey, not a study. And then the third thing is do you remember hearing Greg talk about the vasovasorum?
Mm-hmm.
There's little capillaries that feed the outside of arteries. And basically the belief that study with that, and you could talk to 10 cardiologists and they still don't, I don't know why people don't talk about this more, but he said it was the study said that when you eat sugar, it ruins cell motility, and these little capillaries that feed the outside of the artery are so narrow that the cells can only go down, the red blood cells can only go down 1 or 2 at a time. And so when you eat a lot of sugar, the cells lose their gushiness, and they can't get to the arterial wall on the outside to feed the wall. So the wall starts getting a hole in it, and then cholesterol repairs the hole, and then they blame cholesterol for clogging the artery when it was just from eating sugar. So, I mean,
it's kind of like blaming ambulances for car accidents.
Yes.
It's like they were there to help. They were there to help clean up.
At every accident I see an ambulance, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. We should ban ambulances.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so just to throw my 2 cents in there, Barry, those are things that I remember that Greg said. Okay. Vegetables. You have a kind of a go-to vegetable?
Yeah, I think include vegetables as much as you want, as much as you like them.
Oh, sorry. Go back. What about raw meat and raw eggs? You okay with eating outside of like the bacteria and that stuff? Are you okay with eating raw meat? Like if you had a clean source, like just.
Yeah, like I eat raw liver every day.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Love liver. Well, okay, I
disgusting.
Don't actually love
you really
liver.
Are
It's
disgusting.
Yeah. It's gross. And it's only because I don't like liver. I don't like cooked liver.
Yeah, me neither.
Liver and onions.
The smell is crazy.
I didn't grow up eating it. I don't have a taste for it, but I recognize its nutritional value as basically the most nutritious food on earth. So little small bits.
Yeah.
Just cut them up and I like swallow them like a pill almost. Just like maybe half an ounce a day, just a little bit.
Okay.
Like raw eggs, you can get yourself outside of the bacterial salmonella issues. The old like crack 6 raw eggs into the blender and chug it like was that from Rocky or something?
Yeah.
Egg whites have
on the spectrum, by the way, raw eggs are so much easier than liver. Like you think raw egg is going to be bad? Have you ever had a raw egg?
I don't know if I've ever done a raw egg. I do love a good like runny yolk, but I don't know if I've ever just
easy.
Raw egg.
It's so easy, especially if you're hungry. If you're hungry, it's almost a little bit sweet. Yeah. Your taste buds are like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. So egg white contains a protein that binds vitamin B7, biotin. So if you eat a lot of raw eggs, raw egg whites especially, you can give yourself a functional biotin deficiency. So, and biotin deficiency is like really dry skin, hair falls out, brittle nails, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But when you cook the egg whites, it deactivates that protein that binds vitamin B7. And then there's enough B7 in the egg yolk that it can overcome the cooked amount of the protein that binds B7. So like I would be careful with too many raw eggs. And it's called egg white injury, the deficiency disease that you get. It's a functional biotin deficiency.
Oh, interesting.
So careful with raw eggs. You can do it once in a while, but don't make that like a daily staple. Fresh meat, raw meat has vitamin C. When you cook it, it's a water-soluble vitamin, so you deplete the vitamin C. So you could do some, like a beef carpaccio sometimes, that kind of stuff. But otherwise, I think cooking made us human. Control of fire about 1.8 million years ago is what allowed us to unlock more nutrition from the environment. It makes meat safer that otherwise would have been contaminated. It also sort of pre-digests some of those proteins that allows us to assimilate, like digest and get them into us easier. So on the whole, I would favor more cooking, vastly more cooking than I would favor doing raw stuff.
Okay.
The odd raw oyster, some of those things, those are fun.
Oh. Okay. Vegetables.
I think eat as much of them as you like, whatever you like to include. I don't think you need to go out of your way to stuff yourself full of vegetables if you're not enjoying it. I think you can consider them a carrier for your fats. use them as an opportunity to increase your energy, calories with butter, olive oil, good source, that kind of stuff. There's nutrients like vitamin C is mostly going to come from your plant foods. There's a small amount in fresh meat, but a red pepper, you can, vastly exceed your vitamin C requirements of one red pepper or a cup of cauliflower, that kind of stuff. So there's some really simple ways to meet those nutrient requirements. Try to get them fresh, local, go to your farmer's market. I'm also a big fan of fermented, like a sauerkraut. Where I live in Saskatchewan, very, very harsh winters, very harsh climate. It's a crazy place to live. And like 100 years ago, 150 years ago, like there was nothing here. So I'm the descendant of some really crazy people that decided to go west into this frozen
Your
prairie
family has
grassland.
history there? Your family has long history there?
Not long history, but like, okay, so this is one of my favorite stories. This is a tangent off of what you asked me, but
that's fine. This whole show is a tangent.
My great grandma lived in a sod hut on the prairies, and she had
like grass,
like they would dig like bricks of grass out of the earth and build a shelter out of it.
Wow.
So people came here from
my kids
all
would
over
love
Europe.
That. My kids would love that.
They probably would. And I mean, in the winter here, it gets to be like -40 for stretches of time, and it's dark for lots of hours of the day. So she has 4 kids. She's pregnant with the 5th. She's living in this sod hut in the freaking middle of the bald prairies. It's the winter. And her husband dies in the 1918 flu epidemic. And then she has the baby and the baby dies. So she's by herself with these 4 kids, like frozen prairies. She manages to survive the winter with the help of some of the neighbors from surrounding farms and stuff, makes it through, ends up getting remarried later on, has 8 more kids. And one of those 8 is my grandpa. And so you're like, these people were so tough, like crazy motherfuckers that came here to try to break the land and make a life. And, they were in Germany and Austria and Belgium, and they were like, hey, do you guys want to go to the middle of the frozen nowhere and see if you can live? And they were like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like crazy people. And this is not that many generations ago. Like I have a picture of that woman, like this isn't my ancestors.
So she had 13. Ago. So she had 13 kids.
Yeah. And then I'm like,
and 2 husbands.
And then here's me in the modern world. And I'm like, sometimes my steering wheel is cold in the winter when I get in my car. Yeah. You're just like, I think about her a lot because I try to check myself with how incredibly soft I am in my wonderful, luxurious life in my heated house and all these things. So
hey, I was in Ottawa and it was -16 once. And I went outside and I started feeling the water on my eyeball start to freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, holy fuck. So -40s, like you just can't go out. You just can't go outside.
Well, we do go outside. We try to go for a walk every morning. You just,
what happens to your face? Doesn't everything just all the wet shit just start freezing?
Yeah, you do have to be like pretty bundled up in the big furry hood to make a little warm spot. But like my kids walk to school every morning. We walk with them, try to get outside in the winter.
But that sensation of your eyes clicking in the water and your eyes getting cold is like, that sensation regularly. That's like a yearly thing.
Yep.
And must be cold. My eyeballs are freezing.
My eyelashes are frozen together.
Wow.
So there's something about like that lineage of, we were talking about personal responsibility and accountability of that. Those roots run deep here. This is a crazy place to live. And my ancestors of not that many generations ago were really hardy people. But where I was going with that was they had an incredible amount of knowledge of how to survive. There was nothing here. There was no stores. There was no cities. They just created a homestead and broke the land. And so they knew they brought knowledge of how to farm and how to raise animals and then how to preserve and can things so that they could survive the winter. And so, you can't grow a ton of stuff here, but cabbage grows like crazy. And so they would preserve and ferment cabbage. And so that's how they would have vitamin C through the winter. They didn't know that that's why, but that's how they avoided getting scurvy through the winter. And turns out that's really good for the gut microbiome to have lots of fermented foods. And there was just all this massive knowledge of how to survive in this ecosystem, how to survive off the land in this really self-reliant kind of way. So,
well, you're going to need that for all the fucking psychopaths that come out every time you talk about food and try to like talk shit.
Oh, I know. And I realize I'm wading into like a very antagonistic field. People love to argue about nutrition and
like someone's going to write, no, you can't have more than 4.5 ounces of meat. she answered that wrong. You know what I mean? Like someone.
And there's a strong nutritionism instead of the actual nutrition, where the way science has been conducted is to isolate variables. And so we've been isolating single nutrients, single variables, grams of protein, instead of like food. We need to talk about food. I listened to a podcast with a supposed nutrition expert not that long ago, and she was talking about the benefits of creatine for women. She's going on all these positive things. She's like, so I have the women I work with supplement creatine. She's like, and iron is super important, and lots of women are deficient in iron, so they take their iron pills. And B12 is super important, so I have them take their B12 pills. And protein is so important, so we protein water and protein shakes and protein bars. And I was like, has this person forgot that food exists? I was like, she listed the importance of all these things and then listed hundreds of dollars worth of supplements and forgot that like all of those things exist in one food.
My wife ever since she went through menopause, she donates blood as, I think maybe I'm misspeaking, but as a way to reduce her iron.
Yep, I do as well. Actually, donate
No
blood.
shit. Oh, she's gonna be so happy you said that.
Yeah,
you do that also, huh?
Donation, yeah.
For that same reason, to like give your body a chance to like push out some iron.
And I think that people were living in a more dangerous.
I think it's batshit crazy. I'm like, I'm not giving anyone my blood.
You should donate blood. It's actually one of the best simple health practices you can do to dump microplastics and PFAS chemicals out of you, all the forever chemicals that are everywhere in the media.
Shit. If you get me into donating blood, I'm in big trouble. Holy shit. Really?
And then stored iron as well. So ferritin, it would show up as on your blood work. If you have high ferritin, that's not great. Like everything, like I said, too little, not good, too much, not good. You want to live right in this zone. And then clearing out.
Fan of blood donation.
Yeah,
God, my wife's going to be so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
She tells me that stuff that she does, like, and like things like that. And I just stay quiet. I'm like, she's fucking nuts. But then it always, I think she's always right. I've never been right. It's always someone comes on the show and is like, yeah, she's right.
Smart lady. I'm donating blood on Tuesday.
Oh my. Okay. So vegetables, the only one I heard you like give the real love to is the bell pepper. So I'm going to go, or the red pepper.
Yeah. Super high in vitamin C. And fermented stuff. Love a good sauerkraut. That's where I was kind of going.
Oh yeah. Fermented. Yeah. I like fermented.
Love fermented vegetables, pickled carrots, actual pickles, the sour pickles that you can see the bacterial kind of filminess in there. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And then be open to experimenting.
I can't. All right. This is so PG. Let's, I was going to go ahead.
It's too early for that. It's early in the morning. Be open to experimenting with removing classifications of vegetables from your diet if you're trying to address certain things, like removing nightshades is a common one for joint pain and arthritis type stuff.
I heard it's okay. So I eat all my tomatoes right off the vine. So I see, I'm making this number up, but I see 20,000 tomatoes a year. I never bring a tomato inside. I just sit there and probably, so like 80% of my tomatoes just fall on the ground. But I'll go out there with my boys and we'll just hang out and we'll eat tomatoes for 10 minutes. And I heard if you just pick them right off the vine, whatever the nightshade bad naughty shit isn't in there. Is that true? I'm
not sure specifically, but in general, I'm a big fan of getting things closer to the source. How it was grown, the quality of the soil. It wasn't sprayed with glyphosates. Like I love all that stuff. So
yeah, just got bird poop on it. That's it.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's really ruining their health with vegetables they grew in their backyard.
Okay.
Of all the things that are harming society right now, I don't think that's it.
Okay. Nut. Is there a best nut?
I'm a big fan of like macadamia nuts. The fatty acid profile of them is pretty good. I would keep the proportions of them small-ish and keep a good variety in there.
Like Greg Amundsen used to like eat like 4 almonds. And I'm like, I eat like 400 almonds. I eat a bag of almonds in a sitting while I watch, something on TV.
And again, like anything where it's a lot and too much and too little, plant foods.
But it really is. You're not supposed to eat a lot, right? Like 4 macadamia nuts, you should be like, all right, yay.
If you're on your zone blocks, I was always doing 5 times the fat. So then that gives you like a more substantial portion of fat instead of it being like 3 almonds or 9 almonds. You get like a decent handful. Plant foods can come with, they have chemical warfare to protect their next generation, their offspring. So Almonds, for example, can be really high in oxalates, which people can experience as kidney stones or joint pain, or even just like funny little crystals that come out of the top of their skin. So you just have to be open to trying adding or eliminating foods if you're trying to address a certain health concern. So there's almost nothing that's like exclusively great or exclusively bad.
What about
But I
pine
love that.
nuts?
Yeah, they taste great. Like them.
They feel really oily. Like that's why I like them. They feel like medicine.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in your mouth, they're just kind of like.
I feel like almost any of the nuts, just read the ingredients. Most of them, mixed nuts and stuff now, are covered in seed oils.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're getting like good quality sources. Read the ingredients.
You always nuts are one of those things. Nuts, popcorn. You always have to read the ingredients because 99%, even the health food store, like sometimes you go in there and you can't find like, you can't just find ground peanuts.
Yeah.
Like it's got sunflower oil or some shit in it, and you're just like, wait, what? Why?
It's crazy when you really just start to discipline yourself to read the ingredients and you think, oh, I'm buying food. It's a whole food. I bought some mixed nuts. That should be fine. And then you actually read the ingredients and you're like, why is this in here? Why is it covered in sunflower oil? You have to be careful. You have to be diligent, but also the information is right there. It's not hidden. It's on the package. You just have to.
Beef jerky the same way. Like if you're traveling, like you basically like I went into a gas station. I looked, you know, one of those big ones that's out in the middle of nowhere in Oregon, and I went in and there's like, you know, a whole aisle full of beef jerky. I'm reading package after package has like all these weird oils in it. So I went to the counter. I'm like, hey, is there any local dudes who sell beef jerky here? And then he points. It's nowhere near the beef jerky. He's like, yeah, it's really expensive. It's over there. Some guy makes it around here. And I go look and it's just salt. I'm like, thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Or sugar, right? You think, oh, I'm getting my protein. I'm eating
tons of
meat.
sugar.
I found a bag of beef jerky at a CrossFit gym where we were doing level 1 recently. And I'm like, I'm going to bring this with me. I'm doing the nutrition lecture. I bring it up to the whiteboard with me. And I like portion out the serving size. And I was like, guys, this beef jerky has 3 sugar cubes worth of sugar on it right now. You think you're like, oh, I made a good choice. I chose a high protein snack. And I was like, this is candy. This is literally, you know, imagine in your coffee and you're putting in like, like sugar cubes.
Hey, this is probably like 2007 or 8. I was filming a level 1 seminar, and during the break I went out and I'm like, and I saw this like kombucha drink. I'm like, oh, Nicole Carroll will love this. She's a fucking hippie girl from Santa Cruz. So I got it for her. She's like, oh, thank you so much. And then during the nutrition lecture, she's like, look what someone fucking brought me. And I was like, I got fucking destroyed. She talked about what a shitty drink it was. I was like,
oh, roasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any seeds or nuts better than seeds?
I think seeds will do better in your digestion if you sprout them first.
Oh yeah, that's sprouting's cool. So you like sprouting too?
Yeah.
Sprouting's fun.
It is fun, yeah.
And refreshing.
Like I said, I'm a big fan of cooking and food preparation, you know, sprouting, fermenting, grinding, drying, all those things, put it in the category of cooking, even if it doesn't involve applying heat. I think it just like brings you closer to your food and it makes things taste better and it makes you digest them easier. I love all that stuff.
Hey, that's a cool thing to do with kids too. I can't remember. I brought one of those sprouting jars. I'm going to break it out again actually today. And then we got like a bag of like lentils or something, and then you just pour it in there and then you add some water, and a couple of days later it's all sprouted. That shit's good for you.
It's cool. It's life.
Yeah.
It's a life.
Okay. Anywhere someone should go out of their way to get fat?
I think like I always call them healthy natural fats. So the healthier the animals are that you eat, the healthier their fat is. So like we were talking about, get your hands on the highest quality meats that you can, and including seafood, eggs, dairy, all that kind of stuff. So those things will come with their own healthier fat attached to them. And then nuts and seeds obviously is going to have some fat in there. And then the fruit fats, I call them. So coconut, olive, avocado, those are all fruits. So even when we say in the nutrition prescription, meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, you can include plentiful fruit on a very low carb or low sugar diet. Even tomatoes and cucumbers are fruits. And you can include higher fat fruits, olives and coconuts and avocados.
You know, my wife's the kind of person, like if she eats an avocado, she'll cut it in half and eat like half. Or you know what I mean? Like she could peel an orange and just eat half. Like I can't do that. I mean, I could do that. I don't do that. I eat the whole thing every time. I'm like, I'm not putting this fucking thing away.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why she has a 8-pack and I have a fucking muffin. Okay.
I mean, it sounds like you should measure your inputs and observe your outputs and see what happens. See how you could change your inputs until you achieve the desired result.
Right. Government control over who could, let me ask you this. Sorry, I've had you a long time now. By the way, if you want to meet Jocelyn Rylee, if you want to be a part of history, it's been a long time since CrossFit has brought the base of the pyramid to the forefront. She will be in Toronto for the inaugural nutrition seminar on June 7th. Go sign up. Do you ever think about this is a topic I talk about with Greg a lot, about the concern of licensure around diet? I don't know what you have in Canada, but right now in the United States, I think pretty much anyone can talk about diet. But we've gone through some really scary shit here in the United States in the last 5 or 6 years, where people telling you what you can and can't talk about when it comes to health, and some really bad advice is given that's caused a lot of people to die. Do you ever get concerned about that or think about that, licensure around nutrition?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a major, nobody's really trying to push for it where I live. So like personally, in my little bubble, it's not an immediate concern, but as a, philosophical debate, yeah, like where's the line between freedom to say whatever you want and then people being harmed by having access to information? I would generally favor freedoms and freedom of speech. I think I would favor people being more educated and being better at sifting or sorting real from bullshit. And the way education is done and the way people understand how math works and people's very poor understanding of statistics allows nefarious actors to infiltrate that hole in the armor and trick people, fool people. So I don't think we're going to solve the problem with more regulation. I get that we see that, like, hey, some people are giving really bad advice and some people are being harmed by that. And therefore, we should stop that, I guess, is the conclusion that people go to. That we should make licenses. People should have to have a certain education, and not everybody should be able to tell other people what to eat, which I think if we back up a little bit is actually crazy when you think about it. It's like 100 years ago, there didn't need to be anybody to tell you what to eat. People just knew what to eat. Like the job of a nutritionist shouldn't exist. We should just have wisdom and knowledge that's passed down generations because we know what makes the healthiest people. And somewhere in the last few decades, that whole system that benefited humanity for all these years has been broken. Yeah. The passing down of wisdom, too much of our food preparation and knowledge has been outsourced into the hands of industry. And, there's all kinds of problems with that. But I think from what would I do about it? Well, I would like to see the next generation be educated well enough to be able to spot a bad argument when they see it. And I think that's why, like I said before, we need a better definition of health. And so then if you have an actual practical, scientifically rigorous, empirical, measurable, observable, repeatable definition of health, then you can sort out or you can eliminate tons of the bad advice right there. And then, like, what am I doing with my kids? Well, we read as bedtime reading How to Lie with Statistics. It's a book written close to 100 years ago now. Love that book. There's a kid's book called The Fallacy Detective. Teaches kids all about logical fallacies and how to spot them. Straw man arguments, red herring arguments, and it's in a little kid's book. So
what's the name of that book?
How to Lie with Statistics.
Okay, I got that one.
And the other one's called The Fallacy Detective.
The Fallacy Detective. I might have that. Greg may have bought me that.
And that may have been where I came across it, right? Because it's all kind of along the same lines of, and that's a lot of what Greg's doing with Broken Science now, is putting together this kids curriculum. He's like, you got to get them in grade 4. You got to get them to understand, logic of the inverse, and it allows them to basically be bullshit proof.
Yes.
Not be gullible to bad arguments, and to be able to sort out or just understand, like I said, I've dabbled in this nutrition science thing, and you can spot, like, here's where the trickery was done, or here's why they're saying this, but it doesn't really follow from the data. Yeah, there it is. Kids book. I mean, it was also great for me too. Like,
this isn't the one that I saw. This isn't the one that Greg bought me. I got a different one. This one's cool. I'll get this one too.
Oh.
I'll have my wife read it to my kids.
So, I mean, there's lots of people doing things from a public policy perspective, trying to change, things in the US and Canada. And thank goodness for them trying to get in there at the level of bureaucracy and make change. I don't have the patience or the desire to be in that realm.
Right.
I'm like one person at a time, I'm like, CrossFit's are the lifeboats in the sea of chronic disease. I'm like, get in the lifeboat with me. Bring your kids. Let's, try to equip my kids. And then if I have any influence on other people's kids and, parents and just better knowledge. I really do believe knowledge is power. And when people know better, they do better. And so if, like I said at the beginning, if I have any superpower and it's teaching, well, then I'm just going to use that. I'll spend the rest of my life, however many breaths I get on this earth, doing that. And trying to put better knowledge in the hands of more people.
Are spicy margaritas ever okay? God, I love a spicy margarita.
I love a good margarita. Yeah. I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, I will say this though. Yesterday I had 2 for lunch, and it really does at my age, and I hadn't had one in a long time, probably like over a month, and it turned me into I hadn't probably had alcohol in a month, and it turned me into the Tin Man. Like it literally like I just feel the inflammation just overtake my body.
I know.
Like I went to try to play tennis afterwards, and it was like I felt like a ball of clay moving on the court when usually I'm like fucking an agile cheetah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, I feel the same.
Yeah.
And
So
I mean, there's some balance of enjoyment of life versus consequences.
I didn't even enjoy it. I'm at the age where I don't even enjoy it. Yeah. Like when you're younger, the consequences now are getting too high for me. Actually, I went to my favorite restaurant last night, and then this morning I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I like that restaurant anymore.
Yeah. And you get to the point, it's like cost benefit analysis. I would say CrossFitters tend to favor sacrifices now for better in the future. I mean, isn't that the core of what we do?
I quit smoking because I started CrossFit because I just wanted to be better at CrossFit. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're willing to do the hard thing now for the benefits later.
Yeah.
Many people, problems in society are choosing the indulgences now and not considering the consequences later, or just pushing those problems into the future.
Yeah. Jocelyn, Rylee, tip of the spear of nutrition. Man, I'm so glad to meet you. I can't wait to have you on again. You're a wealth of knowledge. You ran your affiliate for 16 years. You still run it. You have kids. You have a long relationship. Those are all huge crowning achievements in life.
Life is good.
Yeah, you're an amazing human. I look forward to having you back on. Thanks for talking about the whole gambit and letting the conversation meander and going from the big to the myopic. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me on. When you messaged me, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with Simone about nutrition and the chance to talk about the course and, tell people in your audience about what's coming up. And if we can point the ship of CrossFit back to having nutrition be at the base of the pyramid of the thing we all talk about, then I would feel like mission accomplished.
Yeah. Well, you're already doing it. All right. I will stay in touch. If there's anything you ever need from me, any seminars you want to talk about, you want to come on after it, you want to come on again before it, please don't hesitate. Please use me to share any message that you have. I love I'm a believer. I'm a believer in the CrossFit methodology, and I'm a believer in your knowledge, what you share.
Well, that's awesome. Hell yeah. I appreciate the support, Sivan. You're the best.
All right, dear. Thank you. Say hi to David for me and the kids.
Yep.
All right. Bye. Some strange old guy said hi. This is my favorite podcast in a while. This was great. Lots of takeaways. Oh, good. Sevan, are your leggings sticky? Buddy. Be cool, man. Be cool. Just be cool, man. Just be cool. Oh shit. My wife texts me. I'm probably gonna get what's this say? Oh. Marquetta does functional medicine. Oh, I thought I was gonna get the blood talk. I can't believe that lady gets her blood taken out too. How about the fact that she's Canadian and she believes in personal responsibility and accountability? That for me, that was the most significant thing because, like I just have all these Canadians pigeonholed as being douche canoes, ankle grabbers. And I'm so glad, like, I'm such a judgmental dick. And that was great. I needed that. I got Joe Ellis helping me out with my actually, I love it. I already love the tranny. I love a tranny more than I love a Canadian. So that I guess Joe did that much. But, uh, what the fuck is this you guys are talking about? Oh, wow. What is this? Sorry, I gotta take a break. Yeah, just hang with me for a second. Um, oh. Ah. Alright. Anything else? Anyone? This lady was just a culmination of everything we've been saying in the chat for years, but Sevi ignores. Oh, thanks. Uh, this lady is a culmination of everything Sevi's been preaching to the chat, but the chat has ignored for years. How about that? That's my take. Isn't that funny? That's why I love her so much. She's everything that I already knew. Kale Lehman's in the hospital. I heard that. I hope he's fucking okay. June 7th. I know that chick is. Hey, I'm telling you, when I wasn't blowing smoke up her ass in the beginning of the show, I watched a bunch of her shit last night. I did. Listen, uh, I had two margaritas, and then I sat around like at noon. Felt like just shit the rest of the day. Finally got home at like 8:30 late last night, and went straight to the garage and for 2.5 hours watched her content. And I was like, while I sat on the assault bike and tried to sweat out the margaritas, and I was like, holy shit, this chick's a beast. She's good. I'm predisposed not to like nutrition people, Canadians, um, being a black gay man. I don't like women, all those things. And you can't find her IG. It's called the here, I'll find it. I was blown away by her. I like the cadence that she talks. It, she's she she says she's good at disseminating information. I think she thinks it's because she's like smart and can reframe it for dumb people, but which is true. But I also just love her something about her voice and her cadence. It's called the Keto Athlete. Hey, when you see her training Chuck and Eric O'Connor and Zach Pine and then Nicole Christensen in the room, you're like, oh, this bitch is the real deal. I think this is it. Masters. Oh yeah, it must be it. Masters of Science in Human Nutrition. Eat real food. Wife, mom of two. 16-year-old CrossFit box owner. CF level 4 coach. Food and science for high intensity life. Oh shit! Dr. Tro follows her. Wow, crazy. You remember Dr. Tro? He's the shit. Hey, she's like sh for for those of you who've been around since the beginning, we're watching something. This is kind of groundbreaking for CrossFit because it's been so long since the Rob Wolf debacle, and it truly was insane that there was not a CrossFit nutrition course from 2009 to 2024. I mean, it's like, what the fuck? How could that be? And I remember being in lots of meetings where we talked about that stuff, trying to like. It was almost like CrossFit was stuck paralysis by analysis. Like we just couldn't get one out that Greg would approve Um, and sometimes you just have to step out and start doing shit. And this chick, man, this Jocelyn Rylee, I mean, heard a lot of people. She's the best I ever listened to, just in terms of just engagement and knowledge, the whole package. June 7th, Toronto. She might become. She might have a profound, even a more profound impact on society than anyone's had in the space in a long time. The base of the pyramid is back. Good shit. I can't wait till they come close. There's no fucking way I'm going out to Toronto. That's too far for me. I need it to be like, but they should do one at my house in the summer. They could do it outside. I could set up some chairs and shit. Maybe I'll talk to Dave and ask him if they can do a nutrition seminar at my house. I guess I'd do one at the ranch. They got to bring that shit to the ranch eventually, right? Oh, Sousa's on right now? Sousa's live right now? That would be fucking amazing. I've always wondered if both of us could go live at the same time. Is that true? Let me see this. That's true. That would be crazy. Do your channel. No, he's not live right now. No, he's live at 9:30. Is that today? He's live at 9:30. I have to go. I got so much shit to do. Yeah, I am. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to Albany. I do not know if I'm going to Albany. I am going to Jethro. By the way, your son's a beast. That was a crazy dance video you sent. Thanks for sharing that. I'm going to Knoxville. By the way, if you want to, right here, you want to do the community event, I'll come over and let you know how much you suck. What a better CrossFitter I am than you. Do go over there and click that QR code. I'm going to Knoxville and I'm going to NorCal. I am dreading going to Knoxville. I'm a little nervous, but I'm for sure NorCal that I can just drive. It's a 30-minute notification. Oh, good. You pussy. You hear Kale's latest excuse? Evidently, he can't send any videos to Hiller because he has rhabdo. Listen, I love Kale. He's a good dude. He's brought a lot of discussion and filled up a lot of airtime, and he's provided a fun narrative for us to follow. It sucks that people won't be able to see the bigger picture and see the value he adds to the space. Without people like him, what would we talk about? What would Hiller post about? I think Hiller agrees with me. Just because you're getting ass fucked everywhere on the internet doesn't mean people dislike you or appreciative. You know what I mean? It's a fun story. And I hope it gets fun for him too. Some people aren't able to have fun. You know what I mean? Like some people don't want to be the villain. But sometimes you got to be the villain. You want to be the villain, just I think we lost 300 subscribers when I just completely fucking ass pounded Craig Ritchie for being such a pussy. Him and his gal pal, Jizz. That stand up bit did not win subscribers, but you got to vacillate between being the villain and the good guy, because all the good guys end up being cheese dicks, fakes, and phonies. Not that you should try to be a bad guy, but it just happened. Who wants to make me famous and rich? Someone needs to, who's going to take over reels for me? Who's going to make reels? I said some fucking amazing shit on either the Dave Castro review or the Fisa Goffi video where I was explaining, how to figure out, the meaning of your male to female ratio in your comment section. That should be a reel. I might be the next pope. If that becomes a reel, I could see the Catholic Church making me the pope. There's just so much wisdom in my assessment of social media. I'll do it. Okay, good. It could turn into a job. Like I could end up paying you like $50 a month or something. Oh, Standy. Listen, everyone says they'll do it, but they never do. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Matt Burns. Standy. You're woke enough to be the Pope. Heidi, I would like you to tell me how excited. So there's got to be a degree of excitement you get when you think of these clever lines, Heidi. Like on a one, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you type something and you're like, after you type, you're like, I was probably only excited as a one. And then other times you must be like, holy shit, this is so good. And you send it and you feel like it's a 10. Where would you, I'm just curious, just where would you rank that one? You're woke enough to be the Pope. I think you could have even used ebonics there. You could have just said you woke enough to be the Pope. I just improved on your own post. What would you rank that? I don't even know what I'm typing until I read what I write. Wow. Wow. If that's true, that's awesome. Wow. Damn. Whatever happened to Bruce Wayne? I don't know. What did happen to Bruce Wayne? He used to be the thumbnail guy. Now it's Brad Asaraf. Brad Asaraf. Can you imagine? That's that dude's last name, the deep dive guy. Asaraf. Asaraf. Mr. Asaraf. He was my school teacher. I'd have ruined his shit. Why do you think I'm repugnant to Heidi? Repugnant. That's a good word. Repugnant. What does that mean? Like disgusted? Repugnant. 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 Extremely distasteful. Unacceptable. Yeah. The digestive process of ruminants to me is repugnant. Rumen. I don't know. Oh yeah, and Caved Astro. Shit. I don't know. At least you're in good company. She didn't like Bryson either, and Bryson's dope. It's weird when the funniest person in the chat doesn't like you. It doesn't make sense, right? They're supposed to just be funny and have fun. I don't know. He's complex character. All right. I'm off. Love you guys. Talk to you later. What is today? Thursday? Susan's on in 23 minutes. Oh, she triggered you. She's woke too. She's like me. She's woke like Sevon and the Pope. Heidi is woke like the Sevon and the Pope. All right. Bye, guys. Susan, 23 minutes.